Today's video, since we're only 6 days away from the release of what might be the final DLC for Mortal Kombat 1, I figured that we would take a little stroll through memory lane on how the Nintendo Switch version of Mortal Kombat 1 came to be where it's at now. As you know, it had a pretty rocky start, and that's putting it mildly, but as it stands now, it's a pretty decent port all things considered. So how did we get here? The game released on September 14th, 2023 for early access for premium edition owners on Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, and PC. The Switch version was ported by Shiver Entertainment and Saber Interactive and was priced at $70, matching other platforms despite the Switch's weaker hardware. This was also the same team that ported Mortal Kombat 11 to the Nintendo Switch, so keep that in mind. Upon its release, fans and reviewers immediately noted that the Switch version's subpar graphics with low resolution textures, blurry environments, and character models lacked a lot of detail compared to MK11 on the Switch. Facial animations were static or completely missing, leading to comparisons with early 2000s games. And how can we forget Johnny Cage's beautiful static face? I mean, my God, his face was beautiful. The game suffered from really long loading times, often exceeding 40 seconds between fights, inconsistent frame rate, dropping below the targeted 60 frames during gameplay and cutting to 30 frames whenever a cameo was on screen. In addition to that, there were countless visual bugs like screen tearing and pop-in, and other weird bugs on the character models, making it feel very unpolished. Not exactly what you would expect from a AAA game. Or actually, is it what you would expect from a AAA game nowadays? Not surprisingly, Switch owners expressed a lot of frustration on platforms like Reddit and X, calling the game unplayable and criticizing Warner Brothers for releasing it in such a state. Many felt that it should have been delayed, with some advising others to avoid the Switch port entirely. IGN gave the Switch version a 3 out of 10, stating that it was too much for the Switch's dated hardware, citing egregious loading times and bugs that plagued the gameplay. Fans noted that Mortal Kombat 11 on the Nintendo Switch, which while downgraded, ran respectably at 60 frames per second with fewer issues. I know a lot of people said that, but as someone who spent around 800 hours on MK11 for the Switch back around 2019, I can tell you 100% that the game was not that consistent when it comes to the frame rate, but that was the general outlook of most people, so expectations were that MK1 would at least match this, especially since it was ported by the exact same team, but it fell short of that. In the midst of all this backlash, NetherRealm's Ed Boon told BBC Newsbeat the Switch version would absolutely be getting an update to fix the issues, mirroring the post-launch support that MK11 received. He did acknowledge the launch state was not ideal, but notably, he didn't say anything about the pricing concerns. Day 1 patch, September 19th, 2023, a patch released with the official launch aimed to stabilize the game, but specifics for Switch were very vague. It didn't significantly improve graphics or the load times, leaving fans underwhelmed. At launch, the Switch version only included the tutorial for the Invasions mode, unlike other platforms, which further frustrated players who paid full price. The first major patch released on October 11th, 2023, a significant update added Season 1 of Invasions and claimed visual improvements and performance enhancements. Loading times dropped slightly by about 5 seconds and frame rate stability improved marginally, though the graphics remained very muddy. In response to the October 2024 patch, some fans on Reddit noted a more stable frame rate, closer to 60 frames per second in fights. The overall consensus was that it was a step forward, but it was not anywhere near where it needed to be. Then came the Halloween update on October 26, 2023. Another patch added a Halloween finisher to the premium store and fixed some fatality animations like Cyrax's world detonating move. Load times reportedly worsened in Invasions mode for some people, though local matches ran faster. In the December 2023 update, we got the Quan Chi patch, but this update was also probably what spelled doom for Mortal Kombat 1 on all platforms, not just the Nintendo Switch. This is the update that ruined the online component and made Combat League almost unplayable for like 2 months because of the constant disconnections. This problem persisted even longer on the Nintendo Switch edition, affecting not just Combat League, but also casual mode. This is also the update where the dialogue intros were removed from casual mode and local versus on the Switch. While this did seem like a major setback, it did actually improve the loading times for casual mode by over 50%. So instead of the matches taking 40 seconds to load, they actually took around somewhere between 15 to 20 seconds. In the March 2024 update, this patch introduced cameo fighter Janet Cage and included Switch-specific bug fixes. It addressed stability issues and graphical glitches from invasions and other things, showing ongoing support, which is good. By late 2024, the Mortal Kombat community's reception to the Switch version kind of split. Some Switch-only players appreciated the effort to salvage the port, while others with access to the PS5 and Xbox versions just dismissed it as completely inferior, which you can't really blame them for doing that. Reddit threads praised the devs for polishing a mess, but criticized the initial release, and how could you not? The latest patch added Conan the Barbarian as a playable character, new balance tweaks, and Switch-specific fixes such as smoother cameo transitions. The frame rate reportedly stabilized further, hitting 50 to 60 frames per second unless both cameos were active, at which case it would get capped at 30 frames per second. As of now being March 2025, the Switch version is considered solid by some fans, running at a consistent 60 frames per second in fights, more so than MK11, with reasonable load times around 20 seconds or so. Recently, the load times in casual mode actually got a little bit worse than they were before. They now take usually a little bit over 20 seconds, where before, in like the last year or so, they were taking somewhere around 15 to 21 seconds. Now they take a little bit over 20 seconds, but it's still better than it was during launch. And in addition to that, there's fewer bugs, but the graphics remain a downgrade, but they're not anywhere near as bad as they were when the game launched. The Switch port's journey from dumpster fire to decent reflects persistent dev support, but it's still seen as a cautionary tale. Fans and critics agree that it never should have launched in its original state, and mayhaps it actually never should have launched on the Switch to begin with. But while it has gotten a lot of improvements, it does not match MK11's Switch legacy or justify its price for many. But having said that, when you talk about the price, the Nintendo Switch edition of Mortal Kombat 11 actually goes on sale pretty much all the time. Most recently, like the entire package, meaning the base game with all the DLC included, is really only about 30 bucks most of the time. Mortal Kombat 1 on the Nintendo Switch has always actually performed better online. And I'm talking about exclusively the online, like when you're playing online against other people, it's always performed better than Mortal Kombat 11 did. And now it's just even better, but that really is just the online component. When it gets to the rest of it, Mortal Kombat 11 is just a more complete package. So I understand how people could come away from it thinking MK11 is better if they don't experience the online that much. And for me, MK11 Online is pretty bad on the Switch. But if you don't experience that in MK11 and you really only exclusively play the single player content, which MK11 actually has a lot more of, admittedly. But with all that being said, that's going to be it for this video. I'm going to keep bringing you more combo videos, online matches, and video game news. I'm Switch Played. Done.